man, listen, put that down. How did y'all even get that in here? Why are y'all doing this? What we doing? Put that goalpost down. Stop.
Welcome to BodyWork.
Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to BodyWork Boxing. Man, salute. I want to get this out the way. I want to say salute to Keyshawn Davis, the Norfolk, Virginia native. Did his thing. He etched himself in the history books with a win over Denis BERINCHYK, the Olympian Ukrainian WBO champion, right? And no sooner than the man could, get started on enjoying his victory, did the narrative start, did the goalpost move start. I've been one of them guys that's been tracking these guys. I track 140. I pretty much feel like that's my division, 135 as well. And I have my fighters that I really rock with and really keep a bird's eye view on. You did. But, man, already, I'm like, and this is why it seems like certain people would just deemed as haters, detractors, whatever you want to call it, when all they doing is keeping it 10 times 10. I had been saying for the longest time, even up until the last time after the Gustavo Lemos fight, I saluted him, I congratulated him. The first thing he said was, knock, knock, Tank. And I said, man, why are you doing this? I called out the play. I did videos about it. I said that Denis BERINCHYK, I was one of the first people, probably the first. You can go back and look at my videos. The first person to put out a video saying or indicating that the plan all along was to get Denis BERINCHYK. So I said, why call out Tank name? Like knowing that in the top rank way of doing things that you're not going to get a Tank fight. And you all already know that you have a plan. Ever since Teofimo Lopez reiterated that Top Rank has a plan, I started paying more attention and connecting the dots, following the bouncing ball all along. And lo and behold, Top Rank always has a plan. The commentators, they have their little script. Bob, he pretty much run the plays, him or whoever else behind the scenes is doing it, because I'm thinking he's letting over the reins, especially within the last year and a half. He's been probably allowing people to have different things that they partake in, that they bring to the table, because he's getting a little older in age. He's a senior. So I'm looking, I'm following, I'm saying, man, watch. I said, Keyshawn Davis is going to win this title, and I bet you he's not going to call out Tank Davis' name, right? I'm already hearing some of my fellow boxing fans, talk about how, oh man, Tank fans this and Tank fans. No, Tank fans are actually keeping it a buck on what's going on, especially when it comes down to things surrounding Tank in that name. Because we all want to see him fight somebody, but some of these narratives got to go. I found it senseless to be using that man's name only to come around and on fight night when you got the whole world watching, you don't say the name. You say, oh, it's two champions I want to see and this. It's like nobody wanted to hear that. We all wanted you to keep that same energy that you had when you was calling Tank name, using it for promotion. And I called it out earlier this week. I said, he already doing the cha-cha slide. Talking about, I don't need Tank to do this. And I'm like, but you've been using his name for about the last year. You've been using his name for the last year. I think you've been playing a decoy, trying to get people off for the Shakur path. Take some heat, take some steam off Shakur. And it kind of worked. Because you kind of got the people that really rock with Buzz since Shakur and Keyshawn on that family tree. They're gonna let them do pretty much whatever they want because they want to, they want a bandwagon. Let's be honest, they want a bandwagon. As far as being proven and all this, people want to debate if Tank proven and this and this. That's like, it's not debatable. It's senseless at this point. You know, because the man name come up in conversation with anybody. Even when Bud beat Spence, he came out and told Tank, well, Tank, think my chin is glad. I'll stay at 47 if you want to come up here. In a way, was attached to everybody in the sport of boxing somehow, somewhere. Even Jake Paul is attaching themselves to that man's name, and it speaks volumes because you know that he's that guy. I try to focus on these guys as it relates to inside the ring, and if it comes outside the ring, I will do my homework and break it down, and I will speak objectively about the situation. So when it came down to Keyshawn, I'm like, man, this young boy got talent, man. He got skills. He do show flashes of brilliance. You do see a little bud in him. He got a little mean streak in him. You know, he's definitely a big personality. But I'm like, I don't agree with everything that he does. You know, mainly this week he went on a tirade about the race stuff, blamed BERINCHYK for something one day, went off and doing all this stuff or whatever, and apologized to BERINCHYK the next day. Came out and said he was gonna stop him in the first round one time, and then after that said, nah, I'm just gonna beat on him. And then like everybody just go along with whatever, but they hold different boxers to different standards. Because one boxer can't come out and say one thing without everybody twisting it up negatively. Meanwhile, other people cannot just report on the sport of boxing and report on boxers just based on their behavior. You know, Keyshawn gave us more than enough this week. You know, T.O. gave us a little glimpse of something. You know, if you were watching the fights, Jared Anderson gave a lot of people something to talk about. Xander Zayas gave a lot of people something to talk about. Abdullah Mason gave people something to talk about. And whether you are only fans of these boxers or you just following the bouncing ball all along and reporting on them, everything is not going to be like, oh my gosh, he's a hater. Like, no, some things are just is, like how Cameron say it is what it is. Some things just is what it is. I heard people say that Keyshawn kept his composure during the whole thing. He kept his composure during the fight. But let's not sit up here and lie and say he wasn't crashing out before the fight. And whether or not T.O. was doing, you know, had his part in it, and I'm going to address T.O. probably again, but I'm pretty much done with it. Because when I said he needed to stop all the banana and monkey talk, did a whole live, and I was, you know, basically ripping Tim Bradley and Sean Zettel for being so passive about it, right? Nobody was on it. Everybody said, oh man, Mike, you tripping. I said, you know what? Since everybody don't want to follow it, let me fall up off of it. But Top Rank, it's clear they had a script, because even after Keyshawn apologized to the guy about the whole racial thing, they made it a point all throughout the fight to say that this was his build-up because of race. People are still talking about racism. Listen, it was a concocted story. BERINCHYK didn't do any of that. I don't hear anybody talking about how BERINCHYK was back there taking a nap. He was back there laid out taking a nap right before he came in the ring. You know, somebody that's very, very close to me, because I reminded him, I said, yeah, man, your boy fight tonight. Somebody very, very close to me called and said, man, it looked like a scripted championship. And I said, you know what? Keyshawn handled business, and he stuck to the script. You got to remember, man, Top Rank and them, if you really look close and you follow along, you follow the bouncing ball, you'll see that they had a script, man. It was a whole script. They couldn't sell the fight. Most of these guys, man, they really can't sell themselves without attaching themselves to another fighter. So Keyshawn attached his name to Tank all this time. Said, you know, I'm not going to fight Shakur. I said he started doing the cha-cha slide just this week when he said, I don't need Tank. And then he pulled up Isaac Pitbull Cruz. And then said it was at a catch weight. And nobody said nothing. Nothing. So and at this point, man, I know about more fighters that Keyshawn Davis won't fight as opposed to the amount of fighters that he will. I know he won't fight Andy Cruz. He gets visibly upset when you mention him. Now he don't need Tank. He's BFFs with Shakur Stevenson. Now he don't even want to fight T.O. Even though the impetus for wanting to fight him in the first place was because of a racial tirade. Eureka! Now all of a sudden, he feels as though T.O. has went past the point to where he don't deserve a payday. I'm like, you giving out paydays now? Like, this is what I said, man. I said, after the Bud Spence thing, I am not going to go off on a tangent. I'm not going to part the Red Sea like Moses. and be so divided to where I can't look at all of these guys honestly and objectively and then take a stance on what I want as it pertains to the vitality or the health of the sport. And a lot of people can't do that. Right now, it's tribalism heavy, man. Everybody just going to say, even though when you look at after the fight, right, when they asked Bomac about the fight, he said Dennis BERINCHYK was trash. And the dude said, man, he trash. Bomac said he was trash. And then the man said, well, he is tough. He said, listen, I'm not talking about his tough. Yeah, he is a tough guy. But Bomac, he didn't cut no cut. And that's what I like. He didn't cut no, he said he was trash. We don't know what he was planning on doing. We don't know what his angle was coming into that fight, what his motivation was. You know, he didn't look like he was up for that fight. And I made a new rule after Errol Spence and Bud where I said that I'm no longer giving people any excuses. If you get your tail in that ring and somebody do something bad to you, I'm not making an excuse for you because you chose to get in that ring. Dennis chose to get in that ring. Keyshawn Davis did his thing. Straight did his thing. So now he puts himself up there in the category to where he's one of the 4 that have the belt. So it's Lomachenko with the IBF, Shakur Stevenson with the WBC, Keyshawn Davis with the WBO, and Tank Davis with the WBA. And so now was the time to where, you know, everybody was saying, okay, well, if you were saying that Andy Cruz didn't do anything and he need to prove himself and this is different in the pros, everybody was just waiting for you to actually, you know, become a champion. And then, then you can really say, hey, well, look, I do have something to offer. I'm putting up numbers. I have a belt. Now, it's a unification. Because I remember when I was asking people, I was like, oh, man, well, what if since Loma don't want to fight, Shakur don't want to fight with Tank, what if he unified with BERINCHYK? They said, nah, nobody want to see BERINCHYK. They said, no, I don't want to see BERINCHYK, man. No, we don't want to see that. You know, he ain't nobody. But Keyshawn get all the glory for beating Dennis BERINCHYK. You know, so it's just different standards, man. And I wish that the man would have just said Tank's name. I wish he would have said his name, and then that would have been like, okay, well, he did what he said he was going to do. Once he got a belt, he was going to press for unification, but we all know that it was a script. Keyshawn Davis stuck to the script wonderfully. Tim Bradley did his part. You hear him talking about how that was Jared Anderson's last fight, then having to come back on the air and correct himself and say, no, I was mistaken. I apologize. And this, even though Jared fought like he was uninspired, you know, man. I don't know, maybe that loss might be impacting him more than what we thought. You know, we seen Xander Zayas ultimately get a stop against one of Roy Jones' fighters. And that made me think, man, what if, you're going to think I'm crazy, but what if Tim Bradley and Roy Jones switch places, man? Because I used to love hearing Roy Jones call fights. You know, I can't stand hearing Tim Bradley call fights, but I do know that Tim Bradley, you know, he was a good boxer for the skill set he had and what he was able to do. He was able to get himself in the Hall of Fame, you know, just like Roy Jones. So I think that Tim would be a better trainer and Roy Jones would be a better announcer. You know, I still go back and look at some of them HBO fights and reminisce on when Roy Jones was actually calling fights, because he knew how to call a fight. He used to often talk about things that would happen before they would even happen, you know, when he was announcing the fights. But Abdullah Mason showed out. You know, he actually was able to stop a guy that went the distance with Rolly Romero. You know, his name is up in lights. He's coming for the top. And he also said that he wants whoever has the WBC and the WBO. He's ranked 13 and 15 in those sanctioning bodies, and he is on his way. So, you know, it's a lot that happened last night. You know, a lot of taking Rohan Polanco. He almost won me some money, man, but he just ended the guy a little bit too early. He made a move that I think Tito Mercado should make, in which he moved up to welterweight because he said nobody at 40 would fight him. So I'm thinking Tito Mercado, man, that other bad young man who also called out Keyshawn, who also called out Shakur, look like he's not going to be getting like anybody that's willing to like really risk anything for him. He might be viewed as high risk, low reward at this point. So he might have to make a move and go to welterweight. I don't know if he will, but that's what Rohan Polanco did, and he dispatched his man ASAP. The Dominican man, he's catching eyes, and Juan Ma's son actually caught eyes. He right now he might have the knockout of the year. Juan Ma might have the knockout of the year. Caught Buddy coming in with an uppercut. And Buddy was just like, you, and he was just stuck in that position, you know. Then he went and jumped on the ring and did all that. So he made his debut, ended it in devastating fashion. I would say overall, man, it was an entertaining card. You know, it kept you engaged other than the drops and the laws because of the fighters that dropped out and the time that they had to fill and how dull and that narrative they kept pushing about race, man. It's always going to be in the sport. But I thought it was kind of shameful that they kept plugging that, man, and plugging it and plugging it. I'm like, man, get old. Like, it's not even real. It wasn't even real. And if it was, it had something to do with somebody else, not BERINCHYK. So all this false, and then all of this, and then all of the God stuff afterwards, it don't line up with the behavior, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think that people should just stick to boxing. Stick to doing whatever. Have your little victories and have your little speeches ready and have your, you know, give your thank yous and all that and then move on. Because when you really gauge it and you really have your finger on it like a pulse and you speak on it, people gonna say you hating. When really that's just what really happens, man. We need to stop being so thirsty for the soap opera side of boxing, and we need to hold these guys accountable, man. You know, I like the card overall. You got to see some of the guys that are, you know, that actually have some names. May not have been matched with the best opponents, but overall it was a good card. You know, we'll see, man. Like I said before, when I was speaking on this, I said that he was going to get the belt, he was going to go back home, defend it against somebody that they're going to pick or, you know, design for him, another script for him to play. And I just want to see him with some of these guys where he doesn't have all the advantages. You know, that's my barometer. Same barometer I hold Devin, Boots, Tank, all these guys. We've seen Tank where he doesn't have the advantage in all of his fights. You know, he doesn't. I just like to gauge that on these other guys because when you actually see it, just like when we seen Gary Antoine Russell go up against a guy that was a little taller, a little longer, you know, maybe a little more technically sound, we seen how that fight went, you know. So that's what I look for in my guys, man. And until I see that, I'm going to stand firm on that. We don't know who these guys are. And our opinions on how the fight's going to go and what's going to happen, it's really just that, an opinion. Anyways, I'd love to get your thoughts and your comments, your feedback, you know, on what's going on. If you catch this on the playback, talk to me. I talk back. Let me know in my comment section, what do you think? You know, who is he going to fight next? You know, are you one of them guys that's moving these goalposts, pointing fingers at Tank when the man gave Tank nothing to, you know, it's no indication that he really want to fight him, man. It never really was if you look at it. But who am I? Thanks for tuning in here at Bodywork Boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.